Well, hello there, everybody. How are y'all doing on this here happy prosperity day? Well, I know for one thing's for sure, it's differently different. Making sure there I am. Steiger, you've just proved that time travel is real. Yeah, been through some time travel this weekend. We all have. We're going to get into that a little bit. So as I get the bus ready here to go and get all the gauges set, all the buttons flipped, we're ready to go. So I hope you had well, I know you did, a most interesting weekend. We're going to get in depth on it today. We're going to look at it from an occultist point of view and tie into events like this. And this was an event, ladies and gentlemen. All of us know it, and we'll get into that a little bit more. Hello, everyone in the chat room. What's up? Hey, speaking favor over us all. Favor, boy. Saw that in manifestation in abundance. Nothing missing, nothing broken. I think we saw that as well. Can I just say this right from the get-go? This group has consciously and unconsciously been forming an egregore of peace. We really haven't, I haven't been really too sure of the direction, but it's there and it's in. I read y'all's comments and read the emails. I don't always respond to all of them, but I do read them. Um, I know it's there. And I thought so interesting. When you ask for something, most humans don't really think it out. If you are asking for something, there is cause and effect, no matter what it is. And think about this. The energy that we put into these thought exercises, and that's what they are. It's what we're here to do. Exercise, our spirituality, exercise our maturity, etc. Um, I find it interesting that it sometimes comes in diverse ways that none of us anticipated. So anyway, hello, go, see you, brother. Hello, Lauren. How are you? Good to see you, Gaia. Much love to you, darling. And Paul, Deborah, thank you, sweetie. Grace, good to see you. Drum Stud, how are you, Dave Sullivan? Good to see you, my friend. Charlotte, hello. I think Millie, good to see you. Hello, Nina. What's up? Bonnie, and all the rest of you. So, kind of get right into it. What happened on Saturday was it was an inflection point in history, and it was one of those surreal moments. Now, depending on how many days you've been on this planet, I do remember, when they took out uh, President Kennedy. I was 8 years old. Tell you. Exactly where I was. It's like not a mystery. Third grade, 1 o'clock, you know? Yeah, that was an inflection point in history. I think the next one would probably have been Martin Luther King, maybe not as prominent with others, but then the assassination of Bobby Kennedy. I remember that distinctly. Watched it. ABC News. Back in those days, there were only like three channels. So, you know, I kind of had a monopoly on it. But, um, and I guess Reagan would be the next one. So, what we saw on Saturday, now, again, looking through the lens of an occultist, and then what am I meaning by that? Well, in occultism, we recognize patterns, we recognize abnormalities to patterns. Um, we have this sixth sense that allows us almost to have this um, spatial awareness of events. I believe Saturday was one of those events that where we're seeing the merging now of realms. And this is a big deal. Now, regardless of what your political ideology is, listen, it's cool. Everyone has an opinion. As I used to say and teach in sales, the thing about you understand about people, all people have insecurities, fears. And if you're really good at it, you can, you know, lead people into decisions. And people by nature look for leaders. They look for individuals that display and exhibit extraordinarily abilities. And what we witnessed on Saturday was extraordinary. And we're going to get into that. But again, here all political beliefs, religious beliefs, theology, physiology, it's cool. But we're going to look at it from a point of view in the lens that something else was taking place majorly. Events like this affect the ethereal realm, or you could call it the spirit realm. It was definitely obvious that the spirit realm was heavily involved here. And this had to come from the highest order to do things like this. We should be having the reality that was meant to unfold was I was going to be here wearing a black shirt, and we would be talking about the death of Donald Trump. And we were heralding along a course in history that has changed radically. Now, for events like this to happen on Earth, it means that there has to be a corresponding effect in the ethereal realm. We study it and talk about it all the time. There are many of them, but there is one that is more prominent, particularly where this realm is concerned. So what we saw was a movement. Things are changing. And when things change in the ethereal and begin to manifest directly into the course of time, space, that's a big fucking deal. And, I watched it through the lens of the political pundits, and it's interesting because you get this potpourri of ideas, and you find out individuals, and their faith comes into it, and there is now, no one wants to admit it, but there seems to be a spiritual something, and that is exact quote I heard. Something unfolded here. Yeah, something did. And so for the next 50 minutes, we're going to come in and say, okay, what's happening here? And we're going to begin to look at some of the oddities. I was telling my wife when I was taking notes as this, and I'm filling this up because I'm seeing it. And it is, again, one of those surreal moments that become ever frozen in your memory banks. And I kept telling her that I said, something big. This was just the beginning. Something really big is about to manifest itself. And there's always a precursor to those type of events, much like let's say in a major earthquake, something on the magnitude of like nine plus on the Richter scale. That's big, 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 big. Well, there's always a precursor to that event coming in. And no doubt, The psychic pressure that has been building up in our collective consciousness uh, reached a point where it changed things. In the natural order, it is not normal for the type of psychic energy that was being continually thrown into the ether in such a degree and in such numbers and in such intensity that it was impacting what we would call the death realm, where you're going to die, you're going into that realm. Well, that realm is here already. We're just merely a bubble within that. And when humans begin to exert that type of, let's just say it was hate, that is not normal. That is not, it's an unbalance of the natural order of things. And the events I believe that happened on Saturday was, again, the veil has been torn. It is said that we will enter a cycle where we will be in the time of Noah. Now, what that means from my biblical, and unfortunately, I had some pretty good teachers that were more esoteric than they were, the theology of it. And it meant that there was a time that humans walked amongst these other beings, the unseen ones. They've always been here. And what we saw on Saturday was direct evidence of that. Because again, this would be akin that I invite all of you into Vegas. Um, I always like the Palazzo. It's a great hotel. But that's like we're going to have this big party. And the thing about it is, when all of us walk into the casino, we're going to win every hand, everything that we do. Every slot machine, every roulette table, every craps table, baccarat, doesn't matter, blackjack, we always win. This is what happened on Saturday. And the logical mind, the mind that can step away and look at this, and again, in the seven principles, realizing that something has happened. And these events, by the way, you can check me out in history, they're always the signal of something of a big change. It is said that Ronald Reagan, when John Hinckley almost killed him, that the parallel between him and Trump, same sense of humor, Reagan's words. And I actually had the privilege of meeting and having dinner with Ed Meese a number of times. He was Attorney General under Reagan. And the famous quote is, as they're about to operate on Reagan, he says, "I hope all of you are registered Republicans," very funny. And Trump had the same type of reaction, but in a reaction that truly shows something has unfolded here. And you and I are living it right now. We're living this point in history. One thing that we can be assured of is that as this is going to be written about, because it is already being written about, historians are already writing about it. That's a big deal. And when you look at this, it's mind-blowing. Because no matter how you want to argue it, no matter from which point of view, things have fundamentally changed. Now, what happens in the world, because they're so indoctrinated into their limited points of view, is that many are not aware of it, but they sense it. It's like they wouldn't know how to talk about it because it's not how they converse. I mean, some of us, if an outsider came into a conversation where we were meeting in a group, and had never been exposed, particularly where I would say in the arts, good way of pointing it, they wouldn't know what we were talking about. They wouldn't know how to think about it. And in many cases, it's exactly what's happening here. They know something has taken place. Very evident. Now, the fallback on that is that in many cases, people see this as divine intervention. Now, we all have different ideas of what divine means, but in essence, I think what we all can agree, something of providence happened. Something changed history. Again, we should be on this road that was not going to be pleasant. Not saying the one that we are is not going to be unpleasant as well, but it has a great reward at the end of it. The other one we were heading down was we were heading down for MAD, mutual assured destruction. And so I put together a little PowerPoint of some of the things that I looked at, and it's oddly enough, now this idea is permeating what I would call the straights. They're picking up on it. And they got the cojones actually to come out and start talking about it. Now, in order for a thought virus to begin to spread, it has to be spoken first. And it has to be spoken to where others hear it, and then they re-speak it as well. It's happening. And when you have these altering events of history that have unfolded right before our eyes, it is those of learned minds and spirits understand that there are these moments that happen where these two realms coalesce with each other. And when they do, when they touch like this, remarkable things happen. It does mean change for sure. A lot of people were looking for this. And as I said, this pressure in this pressure cooker that was reaching beyond its tolerance to contain the pressure. And when you know what happens, if you have a pressure vessel that explodes because it exceeded its tolerances, it's catastrophic. Something intervened, folks. It's like having a minor quake that relieves enough pressure at the exact point in the fault line that will push off a much bigger event, if anything, completely negate it. What we witnessed. Because, and no matter how much those try to return to that point, there's a problem now. There's a curse on that. And that curse has already taken effect right now. We have to at least agree that when an human who, spirit, soul, however you want to position it, is in these moments of what I would call the miraculous, us other humans, we take note of this. And if you're aware, you take particularly notice. And maybe that's what many of us have been sensing. As empaths and sensitives, intuitives, we touch that which can't be seen. We know it certainly exists. So when we see a human that is the focal point of this, evidence would then dictate this individual is unique, is somehow either is touched, has been elevated, but no doubt has been individually recognized by something beyond our capacity to see and truly understand. And it seems in this case, in the scales, one life was spared, another was taken. So the question then comes from a philosopher's perspective, is that then who determines those scales? How is that determined? And how is that balanced out? Questions of deep thought and that require deep reflection to it. So let me just show this and we'll continue to talk when I get finished with it. So I put this together, and as I was writing this out last night, I thought that the theme of this was indeed much like if you were going into Vegas. I mean, what are the odds? And in this case, the odds are so incredible. You can't measure it because there was so much that was in play, unfolding at simultaneously. And this was happening, folks, in milliseconds. Time, in one perspective, was stopped. It had to have been. And the reason why we know this is the evidence now. Now, most humans, I would dare say all of us probably, were completely unaware of it at the moment, but yet we were. Our physical minds can't pick up that distortion in time. And when we encounter these distortions, many of us don't have any recollection of seeing that anything changed. It was continuously in motion for us. But in reality was it stopped, or as near to stopping as one can do, and major events. I mean, it's kind of like the movie Dark City when the tuning took place, because that's what happened. It was an exact moment like this. And if you can begin to see this and break this down into billionths of seconds of a second, and realize each one of those billionth of a second is a time. So, July 13th, a day that will live in infamy. This day will be forever marked. Now, it's interesting because two power numbers in play. Many of you can already see that. Excuse me. July 7, and the lucky number 13. And did it ever prove to be lucky? We will remember this forever. And this, I say in the future, this will be considered one of the highest luck days for those who are in tune to that. You can just add this one. This is a new one. I believe why it's the case is that it was not ordained by us. It came from the outside, the ether, and permeated its way in here. And that's what makes these days of particular relevance. The world changed, as I've been talking about. It changed in a big, big way. The impact of what we witnessed, what the world witnessed, had an impact on every world leader. The president of China marveled. That's what they said. He marveled. Putin was in awe. What we witnessed was a person who defied death. This is equivalent to the days of Greece, the valiant demigods, Hercules. This is the scale of what happened. Because we will see it was a matter of millimeters. I mean, it fractions. I have to read this because I thought this was really interesting, and it tells me that this man has changed. He said, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead. That's what he told the New York Post. I'm supposed to be dead. He's right. We're living an altered course of history, ladies and gentlemen. This doesn't always happen. He goes on to say the doctor at the hospital said he never saw anything like this. He called it a miracle. Would fit my definition of one. Trump also told the newspaper on board his plane while heading to Milwaukee for this week's Republican National Convention, by luck or by God. Many people are saying it's by God I'm still here. Listen, divine providence was in play. Now, I don't have a problem. Someone said, well, do you believe in God? I believe in a God. There's a lot of, but the God, but yes, I would say some being that had the ability to alter time, space, to alter events. Yeah, that's a big fucking deal. What are the odds again? So let's break this down because we want to look at several things that unfolded that require what were the odds that they could happen. We're talking into the quadzillions on this, folks. And I contend that there is so much more going on in the unseen. So the event, everyone is aware this was an event that happened in, I think, Bradford, Pennsylvania. Country folks, farmers, and it was a place of people collecting together, coming together in the same political ideologies, and which is cool. It's why we have our country. Butler, it's right there in front of me, duh. So we know it. Now, this picture is where time space stopped. I mean, because what this picture is not showing is the incredible odds that things went the way they did. It's not normal, not even close. Humans cannot see. I believe that if we had the technology, we would be aware right now of a different color. There's a different aura taking place here. And the reason why it's changing is that because there are two dynamic forces that are already in play here. We can't see them. Our perception of what time is limited to what we see as a clock. Time is beyond that. There's principles of time we haven't even begun to comprehend. And I contend that if you could see into the spirit realm, you would see a coalescing of forces, unlike it's a rare event. I mean, it's just that freaking special. As I said, they can alter time, space. And when these events happen, this veil, it has a cause and effect as well. You could say it's almost like a wearing when a piece of fabric is constantly in friction and in motion, it begins to wear thin. Well, when these events happen, it's more than just thin. And this was not normal in any shape, form, or fashion. The events, and you take them in their totality, defy logic, that defy reason. And even if this event, and I'm not saying it was, but let's just say in the realm of all possibilities of what could have happened, if this was a coordinated event, even then, what happened was not normal. Again, divine intervention. Beings, you can call them angels, you can call them aliens, you can call them whatever, they were in action. What was interesting was that there were not that pictures of the sky, and I would almost guarantee you, I'm just saying this, and you who knows, the footage may come out, that there were not UFOs or what we call UAPs in play here. Location. So this is the event taking place at their fairgrounds. You can see the lay of the land where, you know, the lone gunman, if this is the case, if it's a lone wolf situation, we shall find out. And then where supposedly the experts who do this for a living were at. And then, of course, the stage itself. And as this picture shows, that as we begin to look at this event, we now know where the Secret Service, where their counter snipers, where their CS teams, where they were located. We know where President Trump was located. We now know exactly where the shooter was. And this is roughly about 400 feet. Keep that in mind, because I'm going to show you something that has not been shown on any of the news stations. No one's doing the analysis, because I've heard that people are out there saying, well, this was all staged. That's a bunch of nonsense. Even if that was the case, the things that took place made it impossible. Just freaking impossible. So, as we begin to see, he was approximately the shooter to where he had the physically where President Trump was at. You can see where he was at. Now, I got to give credit to Dan Bongino. He really gave a lot of good background, so you really understand how incredible these things that this happened. So, and by the way, we're talking here less than probably 7-8 seconds. So he was in what they called the outer perimeter, which was, again, it violated standard protocol. You have multiple layers of your perimeter, and it typically goes out 500 yards. It's whatever the kill shot of an average sniper could do. So he gets up there in this building. He fires at Trump. Trump is hit, goes down. So he is, regrettably, it was a patriot who lost his life and two others that were seriously wounded. And of course, then the Secret Service, there's some, doesn't matter whether they were a contract of local police or with the Secret Service, the CS team took them out. Now, the question that everyone is asking, and you have to ask yourself, because what if this individual had this, whatever was going on, that he probably, it was like almost like a chameleon. Because everyone is asking, how did a person carrying an AR, a long gun, get past the crowd? It was hot there, really hot. And, wearing camo gear would be one thing, but the type of camo gear that he wore was very odd. And yet you have these tens of thousands of people police, all they said, the security. And even as you can see, this area right here, I mean, this parking lot, and as Dan Bongino said, this parking lot would be considered a hot spot. This would be the number one spot because a vehicle would not be allowed in there. So there wasn't. So that makes it even more difficult. And he climbed up over here on this building. So how did he get in through this area, wherever he was coming from? All these were supposedly covered by local police. And he walks unheeded. It's like the illegals crossing our southern border. I mean, no one paid attention to him. And he's carrying an AR-15. We're going to be talking about that as well. So here's the parking lot. Now, we know this is not correct. He was right over here, climbed up over here, got on the air conditioner, jumped onto here. And again, he's carrying an AR-15. Even if it's in a sling, that is not that easy to do. So, who is this cat? This is the last picture before he fired off his shots. And the thing that is still everybody's question, he was using military techniques called bear crawl, army crawl. Well, he was never in the service, never had any training that anyone knows of, but yet he had the skills of someone that appears to have been remarkably agile. And remember, he's carrying a long gun, full clip. So who was Thomas Matthew Crooks? They say he was bullied in high school, and they're saying that this is a lone wolf situation. Well, you got to ask yourself, what is up with a person 20 years old that suddenly decides that he's going to take out the former president of the United States? And you have to get into the mindset of this. What disconnected that would put a person into the mindset that number one, they would even be successful of doing this. Then to plan out this attack and do so in the midst of what would be considered a Class A security area. Class A meaning high security, high target. Former president, soon to be the official candidate for president. It doesn't make sense. And everybody's asking the same question. Apparently, he was a loner. Where he got his training in firing an AR, I don't know if any of you have or have not, but those of you who have, two things you know about firing an AR, particularly in this case, whether it was, I think the bullet was not a 223, it was a 5.56, that the recoil on the weapon is, well, it can be substantial enough to deflect the bullet to where you're aiming at the target. A person who is trained and has and practice with an AR begins to understand how to compensate so that your target stays in that bullseye. A lot of questions here. This is the last known picture of the individual. I mean, was he radicalized? Was he doing this because he realized that being a dietitian assistant, which is the lowest rung job in nursing homes, it's even below housekeeping. I mean, did he just realize that he was not going anywhere in life? I mean, what happened? He decided he want to, I don't know, makes his place in history? It goes beyond my ability. The thing we don't understand is why was he in a BlackRock commercial? Now that just raises a whole bunch of other questions. So one of the number one investment groups that is multinational. I mean, what these people do, it's really where things like the DEI initiative has comes from. But in the green agenda, they set this, and then the companies they invest in. But anyway, where and why? How did a kid in the middle of a town of, I think, 16,000, where would he get the talent, or where would the talent agency find in BlackRock? You begin to think, what happened? Here is his body. He is deceased. And we get this. And again, how did an individual, why did an individual get in his to be sacrificed? I mean, if you're going to do this, reason would enter in, no matter how confused it is, that you're not coming out of this alive. And he didn't. But more importantly, look at his pants. If you're going to wear camouflage, and I've been to events that you don't see people wearing winter type camouflage in the summertime. How did he get there? How is this even alive? And the question we have to ask is, who trained him as a sniper? Folks, I have shot an AR numerous times. And to have a target 400 feet away and be able to get into the tight round that is required, in other words, particularly in the military, for you to actually graduate boot camp, is remarkable. How did he get access in an event that was supposed to be as secure as you had? I've been to the Trump rallies, and, you go through the Secret Service security. They're everywhere. I can assure you, I don't think Trump will ever do another outside venue again. Absolutely. But these questions are going to have to be answered. Apparently, the FBI, who is running this, can't get into his cell phone. Again, how did a 20-year-old with no military training, no training that currently we know of on how to operate fire with that type of consistency, an AR weapon compared to these guys? That's a 50 cal. Both of those are a 50 caliber. And if you know what a 50 caliber bullet looks like, you understand why when the shot hit, it took his head off. Are we seeing an MK Ultra event or phenomenon? Something wasn't right here. Is this the proverbial Manchurian candidate? A 20-year-old kid? I doubt if he'd had gotten laid. And he takes a weapon, semi-automatic weapon, goes into where there's the densest crowd of the whole rural area, supposedly top professionals, and I'm not, that's beyond my experience, but there obviously something went wrong, and yet can cross a field that have thousands of people wandering with a long rifle strapped to his back or carrying in his hand, however it was, it would have been noticeable. Then he had, the thing is, it would seem like he had cased this out. The one place where you can get access to that roof, but then again, you have to almost have the military type thinking of climbing on top of the industrial air conditioner, jumping over into the vent system, and then using techniques of getting up to the top of the roof, and then military crawl, army crawl to your shooting point. Doing all of this in less than 5 seconds. What are the odds? So let's talk about the bullet real quick, because, see, I think something like this happened. I'm not saying the exact thing, but something like this that we saw visualized in the Matrix. So just so you understand that there's very little difference between a 223 and a 5.56. Jacket can still fit in both rifles, but the one on the right is the bullet, they say, that was loaded in Mr. Crook's weapon. So the interesting thing about a 5.56 bullet is that its design, it's got a soft copper tip in the inside with the lead, is that the heat, the velocity of how it's coming out of the barrel, that it's designed the way that it's traveling so fast that when it hits anything, it's designed to shatter, fragment. And to give you some idea of the force that we're talking about here, this bullet that pierced President Trump's ear subsequently killed one patriot, father, husband, and 2 others. You have to understand the type of speeds we're talking about here. In this case, we know that the range was less than 100 yards. So that bullet is traveling at a velocity out of that barrel at nearly 3,000 feet per second. I mean, imagine this. Now, imagine if you had the ability to slow time down or speed it up in such, however that be the case, that where 3,000 feet per second could be intercepted. Now, the important thing here is to understand that that bullet is carrying over 1,000 foot-pounds. That's why when these small bullets enter in the human body, they do such damage. It's not so much the size of the bullet, it's how it's hitting you. And in this case, we actually have, I believe this is freelance photographer with the press pool, that he was able to capture. This is another one of these moments, folks. What are the odds that you are taking a picture, a normal picture? You had no idea what was happening, and you caught the bullet itself. Now, doesn't almost look like a UFO, doesn't it? So it's estimated that it's traveling at 2,800 feet per second with the weight, foot-pounds, of 1,100 pounds. Now, that's the equivalency of a pickup truck hitting you. So think about that. That bullet is moving at the weight of a pickup truck. Now, I contend at this moment, if we had the technology and the ability to see, this is one of those places where I believe time stopped. And what we had was an intervention on a celestial, spiritual, ethereal level that altered the course of human history. It affected the whole planet. This is incredible. Not just in the physical facts that these pieces were able to come together when they did. I mean, I don't know, to you, this to me is one of those miraculous shot. I mean, it dumbfounds the viewer, because this was the bullet. So the miracle, this is the moment. I believe that there were moments in here that were slices of time that were altered and moved. Even President Trump has said he wasn't going to move his head. And the fact that he moved his head when he did, I'm thinking to myself, as that bullet is approaching him at 3,000 feet per second, you think about this. Now, we're talking billions of seconds here, that something may have caught his attention, but it was designed for him to deliberately turn his head just enough. I thought the caption of the one woman down there, that's truly, if you really grasp this, is almost beyond comprehension. Because there is no doubt that there is some sort of intervention happening here. And so we now capture this moment that will live in infamy. This picture of a bullet that the way history was supposed to go, it was supposed to blow his brains out. Because remember, it would enter in the cranium right at the back of his ear, where that bullet was supposed to go, and hitting him with the force of a half-ton pickup truck. That's the history we're supposed to be living. That has changed. The moment, the second. And if your mind can grasp this, where things are slowing down. In this graph, you can see what we're talking about. Millimeters, that are so, I mean, it's almost defies imagination. Something so minuscule. And even with the bottom where the bullet went through the ear, I've seen enough and read enough on this, even from professional sharpshooters, they've never seen anything like this. The fragments alone, when it hit the ear, should have caused cranial damage. It did not. Some speculate that this is one of the bullets that hit one of the people in the stands. And this picture shall live forever. However, I take it also from an occult point of view that the flag is upside down. Representation of a nation in distress. Is he the chosen one? Show me another human being that experienced this at this time. I'm not the one saying this. This is one that's going around now. Are we looking at something that will be part of legend? He gets close to death. He'll forever have piece of his ear forever gone where that bullet went through. The fact that we can see where the bullet went through in itself is beyond explanation. It should have fragmented when it hit them, and there should have been shrapnel in the side of his skull. but it did not. And here's a man who, when he faced death, was unafraid. What's remarkable, say what you want to think about the man. You know, if I was Joe Biden, I'd drop out of the race now, Joe. You're not going to win. Joe Biden, you can't win against the providence of God. Joe Biden, you're afraid of death. This man looked at it and conquered it. At least the fear of it. They say Joe Biden is deathly afraid of death. This man comes up pissed. This is a god, a demigod. The legends and the stories, again, of Hercules, Dioneus, others, that when they were in the fight with Zeus or whoever it may be, came up a warrior fighting, unafraid, unabashed, more determined. I mean, the impossible, the warrior. If reincarnation this is someone who was at one time a god, a warrior god, however you want to say it, because folks, show me another human being. Again, I really don't care what your opinion is of them. I'm just showing you the facts. And I defy you to put yourself in the line of fire to experience the same thing. I wouldn't do it. But this man faced death at that moment, unafraid. How can you, Joe Biden, why would you want to go up against something like this? Again, this is providence, Joe. I mean, get out while you still can. I wouldn't want to come up against it. Again, you look at this, the picture that'll live for infamy. So the sacrifice, one lives, one dies. The shooter on this one doesn't count. He did that of his own volition. In this case, this is one of those deep philosophical questions. Was this the requirement of the intervention of these beings? You think about it, they altered one life in such a manner that should have faced death. They altered that. Is there a cosmic requirement that when you do that, there has to be another life to be sacrificed in its place? So the questions become, who ordered the hit? If this wasn't this random acts, then why? It's a sign of gross negligence if that's the case, if your security on this. Was all of this just a bunch of coincidence? Is there more going on here than human eye can see? And is this potentially a fulfillment of a prophecy? What we can say is that there appears to be a curse that has been cast forth. Now, I believe that in these events that these type of things go out. We're already seeing the effect of this curse, and it's not on Trump. The fact that this major case that they had in Miami with Jack Smith, gone, obliterated. This is only the beginning. I really don't know if I'd really want to go up against the powers that are backing this man's hand. Just saying. And the veil between the realms. I think we're going to be walking in the time of Noah, that time where we're going to begin to see things on camera, on national television, things that is going to make most people start driving them insane. It's going to be hard to grasp reality. The confusion is going to be in such a way that what you're seeing, the human brain does not want to accept. This is what happens when these veils are torn. beings of a nature that we can't even comprehend. Some say this is the beginning of the time of woes who have come against this. Again, what we can say is that the veil, the curtains have parted, and what is next? And I believe that all of us are going to witness that one. We'll hopefully be able to stay here and talk about it. So that's just my take. Speculation, thought, opinion. But it's a perspective that I believe warrants deeper consideration. Because you cannot tell me that even if you're taking in the point of view that it was just coincidence, happenstance. 1 in a trillion, however you want to say it, it happened. I can dig that. But in order for those odds to line up the way they have, I don't believe that's just by chance. So, hello, Al Guppo. Thank you. Thank you, good sir. Appreciate this. And the show is ongoing, Rick. That is absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and everyone, that's the whole point. It's not the politics that we're looking at. We're looking at the individual. The politics are, you could say that the same events of, any type of myth event that you want to see in the Bible or whatever. It's that same equivalency. It would get you written into a book like this. In fact, I heard one historian write, typically people die before they're going to be written about as this individual with Donald Trump. And, as I said before, like him, love him. However, you've got to admit that this is not normal. And I still contend that the course of humanity was altered. I don't know what the implications will be, but they are going to be. I believe they're going to be profound. So anyway, Silver Bullet, is Trump a time traveler? Listen, Witch Moon, thank you. So take it as you want. Certainly not here to persuade, dissuade. It's simply a time when you can get around the campfire and you talk and you look at this. This was an inflection point in time, in history. This man cheated death. That's all you can say. He cheated death. I don't know. We can all say, well, we've had near-death experiences. No. I get that. But in this case, that it's so dramatic, and because of who the person is and the circumstances around it, it just, again. All right. So thank you for your comments. Always remember, keep an open mind. Don't get so wrapped up into it that, you lose perspective. Let's just remain calm. Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Hey, Danny, what's up? Good to see you. I love the diversity of thought here. It's refreshing, and it's one that helps all of us keep, balance within ourselves. So anyway, Mary Wynn says, love one. Always do. And Mary, it's interesting, just a few seconds more here, because that is the first thing that I heard come out of this. The word love. That word has been absent. I have it on the shows here. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting right here telling you that love is not, you don't hear that. And then you hear it from both sides, pundits, love, unity. Folks, quit being such cynics. Give yourself a pat on the fucking back and recognize your fucking part in this as well. They mention the word love. Now, whether it ever manifests or not, I don't give a fuck. It's the fact that they said it, which hadn't been said before. So there, prove me wrong. Hey, guy, much love to y'all. Lost in Space, what's up? Susie Q, hello, and Grace. So have a great one. See y'all tomorrow with the ladies, and leave me your comments. Hey, hit the like button, share. Let the world see what it is from our perspective. Who knows? Okay, until we see each other again, as the song would say, happy trails.